I refused to help my whole life, until the night it almost killed me. My name is Amos Jones, and this is my story.
Amos Jones lived like a man under siege. At 77, his small clapboard house was a fortress of self-reliance, and the drawbridge had been up for decades. His spine was as rigid as his opinions, and his greatest pride was needing nothing from nobody. When his children offered help, he waved them off. "I managed my whole life," he'd growl. "I can manage my own groceries." The church social committee tried too. Their casseroles sat untouched on his porch until the raccoons claimed them. Amos noticed. He didn't care. Then came the snowstorm. Not a gentle dusting, but a heavy, wet, back-breaking blanket that smothered the town overnight. Amos peered through his lace curtains and saw it as just another opponent to be beaten. He dragged his ancient snowblower from the shed. It coughed. It sputtered. Then it died with a final metallic sigh, 3 feet into the driveway. "Silly machine," he muttered. He grabbed a shovel. 5 minutes later, his heart began to pound violently against his ribs, frantic and uneven. Amos leaned against the doorframe, breath steaming in the cold, defeated. That's when he saw the boy, a teenager across the street, shoveling Mrs. Simmons's walkway. He moved with easy, practiced strength, each stroke clean and confident. Watching him made Amos feel 100 years old. Moments later, the scrape of a shovel echoed on Amos's own path. The boy was clearing his walk. Humiliation burned hotter than gratitude. Amos yanked the door open, the cold biting his face. "I didn't ask for help," he barked. "Get away from my driveway." The boy didn't flinch. He leaned on his shovel, calm, unoffended. "My name's Lance, sir. Just being neighborly. Doing what God asks. Loving my neighbor." "Neighborly is minding your own business," Amos snapped. "I can do it myself." Lance's clear blue eyes flicked toward the 3-foot trench and the dead snowblower. "Looks like you gave it a good try. I'm almost done anyway." He went back to work. Amos stood there, arms crossed, trapped. To go inside was to admit weakness. To stay was to allow help he refused to need. He chose silent supervision. When the path was finished, Lance glanced up at the roof. "That's a lot of weight up there. Ice can damage gutters. Water gets in." "My roof is my concern." "My dad's a roofer," Lance said simply. "I've got a rake in my truck. 2 minutes." Before Amos could protest, the snow came sliding down from the eaves. As Lance worked, Amos felt a tightening in his chest. Not pain this time. Something worse. The discomfort of a debt being formed. When Lance finished, he propped the rake against the house. "You should be good now." He turned to leave. "Wait." The word escaped Amos before he could stop it. "I suppose I owe you." Lance shook his head. "You don't." "Nonsense. I don't take charity. What do you want? Money?" Lance's smile faded. His voice grew steady, older than his years. "My granddad was like you. He fought in the war, built his own house. Toughest man I ever knew." He paused. "He died last year, alone, too proud to let anyone change a light bulb. Fell off a stool." The silence settled heavily. "I'm not doing this for money, Mr. Jones," Lance said quietly. "I'm doing it for Grandpa, and maybe for you as well. Gratitude isn't about owing someone. Sometimes it's just letting someone else feel useful, letting them in. Why don't you join us at church this Sunday? You may have a different opinion on being neighborly Mr. Jones." He nodded once and walked away. The words followed Amos into his quiet house, letting them in. He thought of his son offering to fix the faucet. His daughter begged him to hire help. He'd seen it as pity, as an insult, of him being old and useless. What if it had never been that? What if it had always been love, translated into action? The fortress didn't fall with a crash. It thawed. The next Sunday, Amos put on his best suit, the one that still smelled faintly of mothballs, and walked 5 blocks to the stone church he hadn't entered since his wife's funeral 10 years earlier. He sat in the back pew. The hymns felt unfamiliar. The prayers are slow and awkward. He wasn't there for forgiveness. He was there for practice. After the service, Amos waited on the steps. Lance emerged with his parents. Their eyes met. Lance looked surprised, not triumphant. "That roof rake," Amos said gruffly. "Mine's old. If your father has a recommendation." It wasn't a thank you, but it was an invitation. Lance smiled. "I'm sure he does, sir." From that day on, Lance visited often. He shoveled Amos's driveway in winter, mowed his lawn in summer, invited him to Sunday dinner. Amos joined Bible study on Wednesdays and continued church on Sundays. One evening, Amos finally asked, "Why did you stay that day? I was rude too." Lance shrugged. "My parents taught me 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Love is patient. Love is kind. I've lived by it since I was a kid." Amos nodded once. Then he did something he hadn't done since his wife died. He held on to the handshake a moment longer than necessary. Then he said to Lance, "For most of my life, I believed strength meant standing alone. I thought needing help meant I had failed. But strength was never the problem. My pride was." After that night, in the cold, I learned something I should have known all along. God never asked us to carry life by ourselves. Asking for help didn't make me weak. It saved my life. The scripture doesn't say, "Be strong alone." It says, "Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ." Galatians 6:2. This is Women Called by God, TV, featuring the series Beyond the Pulpit, real stories of faith, surrender, and grace in everyday life. Faith doesn't always happen in churches. It happens beyond the pulpit. Sometimes it happens in kitchens, in hospital rooms, in schools, moments when pride breaks and grace finally enters. If this story resonates with you, share it with friends. Subscribe for weekly videos revealing the truth, power, and beauty of God's call on our daily lives.
Lift me higher every time I call, through every season. I will trust your voice.